So why is it important to have a strategy to climb? You guys see this? Because this was me in the suspenders in 2005. Listen, I want to be really honest with you guys. There is no way that I'd be where I am today without a strategy. I want you to hear me on this. The only reason that I'm here today is because of my strategy to climb and the strategy that I've shared with you guys over the last 18 years. I have no secrets. Without a strategy, I'd be an SMD, probably making maybe 100, maybe 90, maybe 80 grand a year. Maybe a bit more from my book. I needed a strategy because I was 23 years old and 23-year-olds don't make it in this industry. I needed a strategy because a kid with that kind of hair doesn't last long here. I needed a strategy to grow. And I needed a strategy to climb in 2009 when I was in and out of the hospital the whole year. And I was at rock bottom. See, early on in the business, I built a personality-driven business. And yeah, we had some success, and we recruited Melissa Sleds, who's a superstar. We recruited Chad Thompson, superstar, Rob Obey. We had a few people kicking around. But I went 4 years on talent, Trey. I went 4 years on, I was the best, if not one of the best, only best with 2 or 3 people at this thing. And since 2010 to 2023, I have implemented a strategy to win, to get to the top. And that's how I know we can become an SEVC team. That's how I know that we can become the #1 team in this company. I didn't invent the wheel. I had a strategy to get there. So here's some keys that I want to share with you that are part of the strategy. Number 1, these are non-negotiable. This is not up for debate. This is not like, well, I could take it or leave it. These are, if you don't focus on these things, you're not going to climb the mountain that you want to climb here. Number 1 is you need a clear plan and vision for the next 12 months. Crystal clear. So clear that you're so compelled to go after with everything that you got. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, hey, it surprise you on how many people set a goal for the year and never hit it? And I said, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, you kind of expect most people not to hit their goals. Why is that? Because they're not clear on it. They don't own it. Well, how do you know they don't own it? Because 1 week they talk about 5, then they talk about 10, and then they talk about personal recruiting, and then they don't talk about anything. And then they don't want to push their people. They don't want to talk about the plan. They think talking about their vision is cheesy. They get tired of it. Those are all reasons that people lose their clear plan and clear path. And there's no way you can hit your goals. If you don't talk about the same thing over and over and over and over again, if you don't have a crystal clear vision of where you want to be, how do you ever expect to get there? Have you ever felt like every 6 months you hit the reset button and it's like Groundhog Day? You ever had those points in your career? I know I have. 6 months later, I'm like, am I living the same 6 months over and over again? Yeah. You lack clear plan, you lack clear vision. Because if it was clear, you'd be going after it. If it meant something to you, you'd be doing it. Yeah, maybe I'm calling you out a little bit. I don't know who you are, right? Maybe I'm calling myself out a little bit too, right? Because I'm not the #1 in the world at this either. Okay. Number 2, you want to win? You need a clear system. How often do you talk about the system progression? Is it every meeting? Do you kind of do the system progression and then but you do it a little different, right? I'm going to do what Steve's doing, but I'm going to make mine a little different. I'm going to take one of the top base shops in the company, 100 licenses, 114 months in a row of DDR. I'm going to take this system and I'm going to kind of make it my own. Okay. Godspeed. We created the SCDT system progression so that you didn't have to. You shouldn't have to worry about creating documents or building a system until you're making $1 million a year at EVC. The question should be, how do I run it? What does it look like? What do I need to do? Those are the questions that you want to be asking until you get to EVC $1 million a year, because your leaders have already built the train tracks. It's already built. It's done. Number 3 is you need to be willing to go all in on your plan. Here's the truth. There are some people that have a clear plan, but they're not willing to go all in on it. Oh man. Oh, I'd get super wide. I know I need to get super wide. I'm just not willing to get uncomfortable. Steve, I'm just not the kind of guy that's into going to the mall and prospecting. I'm above that. Okay. Well, why don't you tell me what else you're above? And then I'll tell you how far you're going to go. I don't really like to talk to warm market people. I'm more of like a LinkedIn cold person. Okay. Okay, good. Well, I still love you and respect you, but you've chosen the long path. You've chosen the long route. You think it's going to go faster, but it's going to make you slower. Are you willing to go all in on it? Whatever your plan is, are you willing to go all in on it? Man, I had the best meeting today with Christine DeCare. I'll tell you what, that girl's all in. That girl's ready to go, right? I could see it in her eyes. And you don't even have to tell me you're all in because I can see it in your eyes. Number 4, you got to lead with recruiting volume. You got to lead with recruiting volume. And 5, once the engine is moving, you need to master the ratios of your business. You got to master the ratios of the business. If you're not recruiting, ratios don't mean anything. You can't talk to me about ratios if you don't have any recruiting volume. Steve, these are licensing is amazing and net licensing is amazing. Yeah, but you're not recruiting anybody. So I guess when you recruit 1 or 2 people a month, you should license everybody because you have time for it, right? And seriously though, it doesn't matter. The ratios don't matter with low recruiting because you could literally license everybody. You could literally net license everybody. Everybody could pass everything right away and you could still end up 10 years short on your plan. You could have 100% ratios, but if you're not recruiting, it doesn't matter. Ratios and mechanisms. Once the recruiting volume is achieved, then we talk about ratios and mechanisms. Until you get to baseline recruiting of 5, ratios don't matter. If you're not doing 5 a month in your team, this doesn't apply. SMDs, ratios really matter at 10. MDs, ratios really matter at 10. Small sample size of 5 might take you 2 to 3 years to get your real ratio. At 10, you'll know your real ratio within 12 months because you'll be able to see it. The more volume you put through your machine, the better you'll know if it's working. See, some of y'all, we have low volume, machine's good, but we think the machine is broken, but it's really a volume issue. Does that make sense? There's base shops that are really good at licensing, net licensing, all this stuff. But because the recruiting volume's not coming in, guess what? We don't know that we're really good at that stuff because we're not giving ourselves a chance to even compete, to even run the system. Recruiting volume is numero uno. It's the only thing you should be talking about until you get your baseline volume achieved. And then once it's achieved, this is how you get to EMD. This is how you get to CEO. This is how you get to EVC. Number 1, you recruit to production ratio. So what you want to do is you want to monitor the amount of people that your team's recruiting to what the production ratio is. So let me give you a tip on how to improve this. Every teammate becomes a client. Does every teammate have to buy a huge insurance policy? No. Unless they don't have any insurance, then they need insurance from you. But I don't see why every agent shouldn't start at least a $25 a month savings plan. Like they should try the product, right? Get a will through Everest, top up a critical illness policy, get a child education savings plan, do something. Doesn't even have to be anything that we get paid to do. There should be a plan that gets put in place. They have to believe in what we do, okay? The average recruit should lead to 35 to 5,000 points a month in your base shop. So what does that mean? If you're running the system progression and you recruit 10 people, you'll do 50,000 points from those recruits. Not 50,000 points from a rollover from your uncle's money, 35 to 50 from those recruits. If you're recruiting and there's no production volume, right, we got to fix the machine. Second ratio is recruit to license ratio. Okay, this is a ratio that now that we're over 5 or over 10, we need to know, only applies at 5 recruits or more. Okay, we need to know how many of our recruits are getting licensed. The game plan should be to stay over 25%. Here's the good news. Our team on the system is at 20, which means on a 12-month scale, our team is at that level now. Our team is at about a 25% licensing ratio. Guess what it was a year ago? 7 or 8 in the super team. Guys, we've taken it from 8 to 25%. Give yourself a round of applause. Put some love in the chat if that fires you up. That means on 100 recruits, we're going to license about an extra 17 people. Oh man, we put that in a little compound pipe and smoke that. We'll see what comes out of there, right? And then third is license to net license ratio. I want you to obsess with these. So what that mean is that how many people get a license and make their first $1,000 in the first 90 days. I want you to track the net license in the first 90 days. Now, it doesn't matter when it happens, but we should be pushing for that immediately. They should be getting net license in their first 90 days. Okay. So recruit to production. Number 2, recruit to license ratio. Number 3, license net license. Number 4, recruit to taproot ratio. How many of our teammates are getting a teammate in the first 30 days? If you're following the system progression and your 7-day standard is tight and you're targeting PLP 30, everybody gets their promotion in the first 30 days. This is how you grow your team. If you don't follow the system and you don't taproot, every month, everybody has to get 2 new person recruits again forever. Okay. Taprooting should be occurring when you're following the system. So the question I want you to write down in your paper, how many legs do you have on your team that are 4 deep? Just 4 recruits deep, let's just say. How many legs do you have that are 4 recruits deep? Every person recruit should go 4 deep within the first 30 to 60 days. That should be the goal. That's the goal. Every recruit goes 4 deep in the first 30 to 60 days. Everyone. Steve, I got Sarah. She's really excited. She's in licensing. She's been here for 7 weeks and doesn't have a teammate. I don't care how excited Sarah is. Sarah's either on her way out of the business or it's going to take her 6 months to make any real money here because she's not building. People that build a team move fast. Why did Katia Wad break the all-time MD record in 4.5 months? She was recruiting before she was licensed. Why did Xander almost break the all-time record and come in second? Because he was recruiting before he was licensed. Why did Don Young take 3 years to do? I'm just kidding. No, but Don talks about his story. Don, tell me, how long were you here licensed before you made a sale? Like, be honest, because your story's great.
Yeah, 14 months before I made any money.
Okay. Were you building a team before that?
Yeah, I recruited 8 people my first year and they all quit on me. And then my second year, I recruited 11 people and 10 quit.
Yeah.
And so only 1 carried over. And then my third year, I recruited 12 people and 8 quit. So I started my 4th year with 5. And now we have 34.
Thanks, Don. So what Don did is Don took 3 years of a career and he put it into like 6 months. That's why give Don a round of applause. That's why Don's caught up on MD and he's going to catch up on SMD and he's going to catch back up and he's going to graduate at the top of his class. And he'll probably be one of the top graduating people of his class, even though he started slow, because now he's recruiting. Don's going to be at 10 recruits by Saturday. But the reason I like to use that example now, because he's winning, I would never talk about that if Don wasn't winning, right? But the reason I use that example is because in the first 14 months, right, especially before he was licensed, he was distracted and he wasn't building and I built a taproot and all these directs were just direct and none of them had teammates. So what was happening was we're vulnerable when your legs aren't 4 deep, right? We were vulnerable with Don. Don could have quit easily because we weren't taprooting. So when you're not driving your legs deep, what's happening, you guys, is you're not insulating your team. Okay. When you're not driving legs deep, you're not able to stay in a warm market. See, write this down. Cold market is scared market. The only reason that you're in a cold market is because you're scared. You're scared to get directs and you're not focusing on taprooting into your team's markets. The problem with the cold market is there's no stick-to-itiveness. All it takes is 1 acorn to build a forest. Right? We recruited Colton Burr. His mom was my client. I prospected Colton at a client review. I recruited Colton Burr. Colton Burr got me in front of warm market Trapper Goldsmith. Trapper Goldsmith got me in front of warm market Murph. And Murph got me in front of warm market, right? Sharika, Queen Hustle. And there's 4 SMDs deep in that leg. 1 acorn to build a forest. Right? The 5th ratio, my last ratio is this: production per license ratio. A lot of you guys always ask me, right? How do I build a game plan? Right? I see Jennifer on here and she's excited, right? So she's probably wondering, hi, Jennifer Peters. She's like, is she talking about me? Is he talking about me? There must be another Jennifer. I just see her face here, right? Jennifer's probably wondering, okay, Steve, but how do I make this a predictable business? How do I go to my kids or my husband or my wife and say, I can predict income here because this business seems so unpredictable? Well, I'll tell you how. Every license that you add to your team on average will do 20,000 points a year. So if Jennifer adds 10 licenses to her team, that's about 200,000 points a year. But if she also starts recruiting 10 a month, that adds 35 to 40,000 new points a month. So now Jennifer has a business of 20 licenses, but if they're doing 10 recruits a month, they're doing 60 to 70,000 points a month. And that's a business that's paying her $25,000 to $30,000 a month. Now, if that seems too unrealistic, if Jennifer got to 10 licenses in the next 12 months through building a team at SMB, the average SMD in this team makes $165,000 a year, average. And that's an okay starting point too. So you guys get some value out of that? That's how you climb. That's how you start as a 23-year-old, no experience. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's how I made it through uncertain times. Uncertain times of being young, uncertain times of being sick, uncertain times when I lack confidence, when I lose confidence, maybe an SMD quits, maybe one of my top players quits. The only way that I know how to climb is by being strategic and running a system. And now dominating the ratios. And the reason our business is doing this is because since Rich Thawley, we've been obsessed with the ratios in this whole hierarchy. And that's why we are on fire. All right.